Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your Baltimore sports podcast, and today we're going to be going over some Ravens injury report news. This is the final game statuses and all of that stuff before the game on Sunday. Obviously, today is Friday, so today we're going to go over the final injury report, talk about what the game could look like on Sunday, because there is a lot of key injuries, and there's some players returning, and there's going to be some players playing this Sunday that are coming back, and that were questionable earlier this week that are going to be coming back and playing. And then there's also some very key names that are not going to be playing this Sunday, including obviously the biggest name in the mall, Lamar Jackson, who is officially inactive for the game on Sunday versus the Texans. So we're going to go over the full injury report, full 3 days worth of practices. Now we have the official game statuses for all of these guys. Again, this is like a 14, 15 player long injury list. Obviously, the Ravens are dealing with so many injuries this year alongside offensive line issues, defensive scheme issues, coaching issues, and obviously the injury issues as well. So we're going to go over the injury report because obviously that's kind of the most important thing right now. Going to kind of talk about what the game could look like on Sunday. And obviously today being Friday, final game statuses. And then tomorrow we're going to be doing the final game preview going into the game on Sunday, which should be pretty interesting tomorrow because, again, this Orioles team and this Orioles offense is going to look a lot different than it usually does because we're going to have a new quarterback running the offense in Cooper Rush, so and maybe even a little Tyler Huntley as well. So we're going to be doing the game preview tomorrow. It's going to be very interesting. But I will say that there is a sense of belief in me that really does believe that this team can come back and get back into the groove of things this season. Obviously, our bye week is in 2 weeks, so we play this week against the Texans, next week against the Rams, and then we go into our bye week, and then out of our bye week, we play the Bears. So we'll go over the Lamar Jackson injury in just a second, but when it comes to the rest of, like, up until the bye week, because this bye week is going to be super important for the Ravens due to kind of regrouping together as a team, but also making sure these injuries come back and are healthy as possible with that extra week with the bye. But when it comes to what we need to see this Sunday, we're going to go over a lot of that tomorrow. But I really do believe that this Ravens team can get back into the swing of things this year. But I'm not going to lie, they have to win this Sunday against the Texans. If they lose this Sunday, go 1-4, we're facing a really, really tough Rams team next week, which we might lose, which we probably will lose, honestly, with our defense. And then we'll be 1-5 going into the bye. And if we're 1-5 going into the bye week, then we're cooked. I'm not going to lie to you. We are cooked. But if we can win minimum one of the next 2 games going into the bye week without Lamar Jackson, we will be okay. If we're 2-4 coming out of the bye with Lamar, I think we'll be good, and I think there is still a chance we can come back and win the division. Because at this point, that's the biggest thing that matters at this point, starting off 1-3, is just somehow trying to win the division, with the Steelers being at 3-1 and the Bengals being at 2-2. But if we can win this week and next week with no Lamar, and we can go into the bye week at 3-3 and then come out of the bye week with Lamar Jackson at 3-3, then I 100% fully believe that we can turn the season around. But it's going to be up to Cooper Rush and this offense to be able to do that. The coaching is going to have to be in an absolute high. I know it hasn't been for the past couple of years. John Harbaugh continues to get out coached all the time. The defensive scheme and coaching staff with Zach Orr is horrendous. But they're really going to have to be on their A game here these next 2 weeks, and Cooper Rush is really going to have to do his thing, and more importantly, Derrick Henry is going to really have to be a focal point of this offense and really go crazy these next 2 weeks to keep our team in the game. Obviously, he's going to be a big part of our offense, so hopefully he can go out there and deliver. We're going to go over more stuff, obviously, tomorrow, talking about the game, and obviously we're going to be going over the game tomorrow for the game Sunday. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting next couple of weeks. Kind of reminds me of like the Saints when they started off kind of bad and they had Jameis Winston come in and, not Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater come in and win a bunch of games, and then they kept their season afloat. So that's kind of what the boat we're in right now, but we'll see if we can figure it out. But let's just go over this final Ravens injury report. All right, so going over this injury report, the final game statuses for all of these guys on the team. As you can see, we have 5 people on here that are going to be playing and are available. We've got 4 people that are questionable, and then everyone else is out. So going over this injury report from starting off with the people that are going to be playing. First person is Travis Jones. He was limited on Wednesday. was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, but got a full practice in today, so he is officially good to go for the game Sunday. So Travis Jones is back. One of our nose tackles is back. Obviously, one of our big D tackles is back as well. Really going to have to fill in a big role with Madubuike being out for the season, so hopefully he can step up and play a big role for us this week. So Travis Jones is going to be playing. And then another really big one is Tyler Linderbaum. He was limited with a calf injury on Wednesday. We were all a little bit worried, like, okay, what's going on? We already have an offensive line issue. So Linderbaum was limited, but he did get a full practice in on Thursday and today. So Linderbaum will be good to go. That is great news, at least for the offensive line and being able to hold up for Cooper Rush. Next person that is available is Brent Urban. We did call him up off the practice squad because of all the defensive injuries with, Calvin Noy being hurt and obviously Madubuike being hurt and Odafe Owe being hurt and all that stuff. We did call up Brent Urban, one of our, defensive ends that's been on our team the past couple of years. So we did call him up. He was limited with the finger injury on Wednesday, but he had a full practice yesterday and today, so he's good to go. And then Calvin Noy, someone that we just talked about, he has not played since week 2. He actually got taken out in the middle of the game in week 2. Didn't play against the Lions, didn't play against the Chiefs. We knew that this hamstring injury was going to be a couple weeks long, but he is officially going to be back. Had full practices yesterday and today, so Calvin Noy is good to go. And then Nate Wiggins is also good to go. So this one was a little crazy to me. So Nate Wiggins was in a sling after the game with perceived to be like a dislocated elbow, and he didn't practice on Wednesday, so that was kind of normal. We're like, okay, Nate Wiggins not practicing Wednesday, he's probably going to be out for a couple weeks. That was the assumption. But then he got a limited practice in on Thursday, and he returned to practice Thursday in a limited fashion, and then today he got in a full practice, and Nate Wiggins is good to go. So again, something like a dislocated elbow, or like a hand injury for a corner, it's not like the craziest thing in the entire world, because again, with a corner, the big thing is obviously you're running your legs and stuff like that, and he's completely fine with that. So Nate Wiggins is going to be active and good to go, which is great. He's really like the only starting corner who has actually consistently played that's going to be available. I think Jair's going to have a bigger role. I think Jair is actually going to be active and have a bigger role, obviously, this weekend against the Texans, and then that's really all, because Chidobe Awuzie and Marlon Humphrey are both out. So, Nate Wiggins is going to really have to play that cornerback 1 role alongside Jair, hopefully making plays for himself. So next up, the guys that are questionable. We've got Kyle Hamilton, who's questionable. This one, it's honestly kind of a blessing that he's even questionable for this game. So apparently he sustained a groin injury during the game against the Chiefs, and he was limited on Wednesday, and then he didn't play Thursday or Friday. So he didn't get into practice in 2 of the 3 practice days, but he is still listed as questionable. I think there's some optimism that he will be good to go. If Kyle Hamilton's out there and if he's good to go, that is great news. But if he's not going to play, it wouldn't be surprising because, again, he didn't practice 2 of the 3 days this week. But Kyle Hamilton is, again, one of those players who doesn't necessarily have to get in full reps of practice to be 100% good to go. I do hopefully expect to see Kyle Hamilton out there. I don't know. I think he understands how much this defense is already hurting, so I know for a fact he wants to be out there as bad as he can. So hopefully Kyle Hamilton will be good to go, but at the same time, if it's not safe for him to go out there, and if it's not reasonable, then I don't want him to play. He probably will be on a snap limit even if he does play, so hopefully Kyle Hamilton's good, but he is officially questionable for the game. Odafe Owe is also questionable, so he was dealing with an eye injury, and he didn't show up on the injury report until Thursday. So Odafe Owe was limited on Thursday with an eye injury. He didn't play today in practice with an eye injury, so he's officially questionable. So that kind of came out of nowhere. We don't really know too much information about that. Again, one of our other edge rushers. He hasn't been playing great this year, but still one of our only edge rushers is questionable. Also, Ronnie Stanley's questionable. Didn't practice on Wednesday, was limited on Thursday and Friday. So Ronnie Stanley, obviously star left tackle, extremely important for this offensive line, dealing with that ankle injury even last week against the Chiefs. But he is questionable for this game against the Texans. And then Devontae Walker, who is dealing with an oblique injury, is also questionable. Didn't practice Wednesday, got in a limited practice Thursday, got in a full practice today, but he is listed as questionable. So those are the people that are either going to play or possibly going to play. And then for all the guys who are officially out, there are, 6 players who are officially out this week. The first one being Chidobe Awuzie, one of the better corners on our team. Obviously, going into the season, you kind of looked at like Marlon Humphrey, Jair, and Nate Wiggins to be the main 3. But Chidobe Awuzie has stepped up and played a pretty big role and made some good individual plays for himself. But he's going to be out with a hamstring injury. Didn't practice any day this week. He's officially out. So again, as I was saying earlier, Nate Wiggins is going to have an even bigger role and kind of step up to be that main cornerback 1 alongside hopefully Jair Alexander if he's back in football shape, or not even football shape, just back to being Jair Alexander or anything close to it, because he hasn't been on the injury report, but he's just trying to get back in the groove, I guess, because he's been nursing a knee injury, but he has been on the injury. It's been a weird thing with Jair. I'm not going to lie. So I mean, the Jair signing's not looking too great, but we'll see if he can make some plays this week if he does actually play, because we're really going to need him at this point. Next person who's out is Marlon Humphrey. We knew this. This isn't a surprise. Like the Chidobe Awuzie one was a little surprising because we didn't really know it. Like we didn't really know how big of a deal it was until this week, and he didn't practice at all, so he's out. So Marlon Humphrey, we know that this calf injury is going to be like 2 to 3 weeks long. We know that he's going to be out for multiple weeks. Hopefully he'll return sometime after. So hopefully he'll return after the bye week when we play the Bears. That with a lot of these injuries, they're not really like 4 to 6 week injuries. Like a lot of them are kind of 2 to 3 week injuries. So if that's the case, then a lot of these guys should be coming back after the bye week, which would be great, and we can kind of hopefully make like a second half push from there post bye week. But Marlon Humphrey out, didn't practice at all with the calf injury. He's obviously out. We knew this. Lamar Jackson with the hamstring injury. We understand that he actually was at the facility, like inside the facility, doing like personal work on his hamstring to try and get in shape and try and get good for the game. But he didn't practice at all this week. We understood that from early reports this week that this is possibly like a 2 to 3 week injury, and that the Ravens are probably going to play it safe and just have him sit these next 2 games, have him, obviously sit these next 2 games going into the bye week so he can have a full 3 weeks to, rest and get ready to go, make sure he's 115% ready to go. And then Lamar Jackson will probably, most likely, unless something crazy happens this weekend or throughout the week next week, Lamar will probably come back after the bye, because the Ravens do want to make sure that he's fully 100% healthy and ready to go and do not want to rush anything. Even with the position they're in, this is still your franchise quarterback. You don't want to risk anything long-term with him. So Lamar Jackson out this week, probably going to be out next week as well, and then we go into the bye, and hopefully he'll be back for that Bears game in Week 8. So Lamar Jackson not playing. Emory Jones is not playing either, which is a little surprising to me. I think this was more of like a rookie football experience type thing. He was activated off of the IR this week, and he got in a limited practice on Wednesday and Thursday, and he also got a full practice in today. But I think just due to him just now coming back this week and also him being a rookie, I just don't think that they want to risk him having him out there and playing meaningful snaps on the offensive line. So he is officially out, but he will most likely guaranteed to be ready to go next week. So Emory Jones is someone that I'm really excited about. I think he can kind of be like a wild card for this offensive line. He can someone that can be like, you can plug him in for Falele, plug him in for Voorhees, or plug him in for like an injured Ronnie Stanley or Roger Rosengard or someone like that, because they do view him as a tackle and a guard. He's probably going to have to be playing more guard just because of the way that our guard play has been this year. Voorhees and Falele, probably like the worst guard duo in the NFL right now. So we'll probably test out Emory somewhere on the guard spot, but hopefully next week he'll be good to go. But this week, he probably would have been good to go, but they just didn't want to have him out there. Again, a rookie who's like barely played in practice. It makes sense. Another player that's out is Pat Ricard, who is still 5 weeks into the season and the last couple weeks of training camp, still dealing with this calf injury. The last time he practiced was August 19th, and then ever since then, he has not showed up at practice once. Pat Ricard, don't really know why we didn't put him on IR. I guess they didn't know the severity of it. I don't really know how long this is going to be. Hopefully he can start getting in some practices next week, but I mean, I've said that every week now. Again, Pat Ricard, we've seen the impact that he's made on this team, and like we can see the impact that he's made with how bad the offensive line's been, and with us always having Pat Ricard, and it's looking a lot better there. His value and his impact is really being shown off right now, so hopefully he can come back ASAP. Has not practiced once since the season has started, so he's definitely going to have to get in like a full week of practice before he even comes back. Will there be next week? I don't know. They haven't really commented too much on it, but again, another week where he's out. Very confusing why we didn't put him on IR at the start of the year if we knew he was going to be out for 4 more weeks, but at this point, you just have to kind of shrug and just move on. Next up is Roquan Smith. Same thing with Marlon Humphrey. Roquan Smith dealing with a grade 2 hand. Well, not the same injury as Marlon, but we knew that Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith were going to be out for extended time. So we knew that both of them had like 2 to 3 week injuries, which also both go into and same with Lamar Jackson, both go into the bye weeks. So hopefully Lamar, Marlon Humphrey, and Roquan will all be 100% good to go after the bye week. That's kind of the hope. But Roquan Smith, we know he's not playing, didn't practice at all. So those are all the injury reports. Obviously, I just talked for like 10 minutes about injury reports because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players on the injury report right now for the Ravens going into this week against the Texans. It's crazy. Obviously, you have guys like Kyle Hamilton, whose injury hopefully isn't too serious, Odafe Oweh, Ronnie Stanley, Devontae Walker, guys like that, and obviously all the other guys who are healthy. Those guys should be good to go moving into like next week on. But for the guys that are out, the big thing for me is hopefully we don't get any more injuries that we already have. Like hopefully this list doesn't get even longer next week, which it shouldn't. But hopefully we don't get a ton of injuries in this Texans game. Hopefully everyone can just stay healthy. Everyone stay healthy and get a win. That is the prayer that we're sending up right now for this game against the Texans. But very, very weird injury report this week. Also, we're going to be going to this game with Cooper Rush as the starting quarterback, with also some rumors that we might have a little bit of Tyler Huntley some Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley playing a little bit of snaps as well. So all the players, like Rashad Bateman was saying that they fully trust him. Derrick Henry is saying they fully trust him. So all the trust is being fully put into Cooper Rush here. He's going to have to play, honestly, the 2 biggest games of the season are these next 2 games, and it's going to be Cooper Rush, manning the offense. So all I'm going to say is if Cooper Rush can lead us to back-to-back wins here against the Texans and Rams to save our season and get us at 3-3 going into the bye after everything that's occurred the first few weeks of the season, if he can do that, hell, I might buy his jersey. I might buy his jersey, hang it up in the background, do some, because, again, Cooper Rush, it's very much like what happened with the Saints back in 2019. I remember back with the Saints when Drew Brees, they were dealing with a lot of injuries. Drew Brees went down. Teddy Bridgewater came in, won them like 4 straight games, and then kind of put their season back on the line. So hopefully Cooper Rush can do that. Hopefully he can come in here. Best case scenario, obviously winning this week and next week going into the bye week. 3-3, getting Lamar Jackson back, going on a run, winning the division, going into the playoffs, winning the Super Bowl. That's best case scenario, but it all really starts with winning this game against the Texans, because this game against the Texans is a lot more winnable, in my opinion, than against the Rams, because that Rams offense, with how injured our defense is and with how bad our defense has looked all year, that Rams offense, like Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua might both go for 200. They both might go for 200 against this Ravens defense, so I'm very scared of the Rams. I'm extremely scared of the Rams with how bad our defense is this year, and with all the injuries and the scheme and everything like that. So the Rams game, for me, that's a little scary, but this Texans game is winnable. The Texans offense has struggled quite a bit this year, so hopefully next man up mentality on defense, hopefully they can get their stuff together, and hopefully we can be good to go, and hopefully this offense can move down the field well. Derrick Henry has always terrorized the Texans throughout his career. Obviously he was in their division for a long time when he was on the Titans. Derrick Henry obviously played the Texans last year on Christmas Day where he ran for like 160 yards, so we're really going to need Derrick Henry this week and next week. Next week, we'll talk about next week when we get there. That's going to be a very tough matchup for this team, but we'll see how we look this week before we kind of assess what's going to happen next week. But the only goal is win this week against the Texans, get to 2-3, play the Rams next week, hopefully get a win, and then move on from there. But they have to win this week against the Texans. It's the most must-win game of the year, and hopefully they can get it done. And again, we'll talk more tomorrow about the game preview and all that stuff tomorrow. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. Sorry if my voice sounds a little weird. I am dealing with a little bit of a sickness, but we should be fine. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. Also, make sure to follow the Twitter and the Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can actually see all of the names on here. Obviously, YouTube at BOAF Official, on Spotify, Birds of a Feather in the podcast section, on Twitter at BOAF Podcast, and then on Instagram at Birds of a Feather Podcast Official. So make sure to give those a follow. I post all the time on Twitter, post all the time on Instagram, on the story at least. On Twitter, post all the time live updates when things just come out. We always talk about it there first, and then obviously we do the recordings here. So make sure to follow the Twitter, make sure to follow the Instagram, make sure to follow the Spotify, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. We'll be back again tomorrow with the official game preview for Sunday's game. And then obviously on Sunday, sometime Sunday night, we'll go over the official recap of the game. Again, it's a little weird right now because there's no Orioles content because obviously our season officially ended on Sunday. So again, no Orioles content right now. When stuff comes up, we'll obviously go over, but right now it's fully Ravens content for y'all. But again, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great sales day. Go Ravens, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.